Alright, and I guess we are live. Everybody know? Yes, I think we're live. Yes, we are. Alright. Alright. Well, hello, people who eventually will be here. It is Dad Don't Know. I hope some of you are able to join us soon. If not, I'm still going to have some fun either way. So, anyway, obviously, we're here working on the final steps of my Bismarck. Not a whole lot left to do, thankfully. I've done some assembly, as you can see, on the boats. We are going to get ready to paint these. And then while those are drying, we're going to finish putting this godforsaken mast, this tiny thing, together. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to a good place where I can call this one done. On Monday, I will be receiving my USS New Jersey, courtesy of Mr. Andy J. Ward. Please, please, please go check him out on Twitter. He has his SoundCloud on it. The music is amazing. You will not be disappointed. And he's just all around a really, really nice dude. Just really friendly, really cool guy. And that's one of the things I've always liked about Twitter is I've found a community that is just very sweet, very good people who just help each other and just like to see each other happy. And that's just neat. There's not enough of that in this world. Too many people are just cruel for the sake of being cruel, and honestly, that should never sits well with me. Never sits well with me. But whatever, it's fine. So yeah, here we are getting ready to try to figure out how I'm supposed to paint these things. And I know that the tops are supposed to be brown and the bottoms are supposed to be red and they're supposed to be gray in the middle. But Dad has a TBI and a broken pinky, as I believe you can see there. So we are really just gonna we're just gonna roll with it. And I'm going to do just the tops of these are gonna get painted brown. While those are drying, we're gonna finish assembling the mast as much as we can. Once those are dry, we have to glue them into their positions here. Once those are glued into their position, we got to put these nifty cranes on. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I'm not going for a museum quality model here. This is the second ship that I've built completely, and I'm just an amateur, and I enjoy being an amateur. The way I prefer to be, honestly. And oh, there's people watching, and that makes me feel good. Didn't even realize that. There is a chance I may have to run upstairs at some point because even though it's bedtime, I hear little ones stomping around up there. So if there ends up being dead space at some point, I apologize. But not only am I your internet dad, I'm also a real life dad. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done in my life. My kids are great. As a matter of fact, I actually hear her up there screaming about something. Oh no, she's not screaming. She's singing along with her Greedy Granny song because she's just adorable. But anyway, so like I said, we're gonna start with painting the tops of these things. Now, according to these instructions, which while I have you here, if you ever buy a Rebel model, don't follow the damn instructions. They will mess you up in ways that you're not really expected to. Things are kind of out of order, and in respect, there's a couple things that I wish I had done first. Like I wish I had put the davits for the lifeboats first before I put in the 5-inch turrets, or um, like maybe some of these like tiny ass anti-aircraft guns, the Spotlight. I wish I put those on the tower before I glued the whole superstructure together. So it's a learning curve. But like I said, this is only my second, um, only the second that I'll actually complete. It should have been my third, but unfortunately, because of a fire, this is all that remains of the USS Arizona that I was working on. And well, I'm not giving up the Ghost. One day I'll get another Arizona model and I'll finish that. So let's sit back, let's enjoy. I have a nice glass of Dalmore. I hope you all are enjoying your evening in one way or another. And let's get to painting. I don't pay attention to mixtures. I am absolutely an amateur. If you are here to see museum quality and someone explain to you how their process works and everything like that, that's not me. I'm here to have fun. Um, I like the idea of it being more relaxing. There's some great content creators on YouTube that make ships and tanks and planes that are so goddamn realistic that they're actually scary. Like if you did them in a miniature photography session, they would look like the actual damn things. But that's not me. I'm here to have fun. And you're right, David. Being on this in World War II would have been insane. We're talking uh, like 50,000 ton displacement, 2 by 4 15-inch guns, which surprisingly, one of the myths about the Bismarck is that it was the most powerful battleship that ever sailed, and that's not true. Their guns were technically obsolete by the time they were installed. The British were already using 16s. The Japanese were developing 18-inch guns. Um, the American standard became 16-inch guns on everything. And what made the Bismarck unique and dangerous was her speed. Because in actuality, you could have called her basically a battle cruiser more than a battleship. Bismarck's danger came from her speed. She was fucking fast, especially for her size. She had pretty advanced rangefinders, but anybody who knows anything about the Germans knows that technology is kind of their shtick. But just like everything else, it's over-engineered. It was prone to breakdowns. But Admiral Lutyens and oh my god, his name is escaping me right now. Lutyens was the flag commander, and then oh my god, why can't I think of his name right now? The actual captain of the ship. They were both perfectionists, and they were really good at training their crew, especially when it came to target practice. So you had a fast battleship, a very fast battleship that was capable of moving faster than almost anything the British had. And that's what made her dangerous. Something else that's neglected, though, in history books is, for all intents and purposes, Bismarck was sent out to go war crime the shit out of the Atlantic. Her sole purpose was to go take out excuse me, was to go take out a lot of shipping, Liberty ships and the like. Um, But the British, by that point, already started to decode the naval codes, knew where she was going to be, and they dispatched a task force, which, if we're being honest, was not really, um, not really adequate for the battle that they were trying to take. The Bismarck went out not unescorted. She had another battle cruiser with her, the Prince Eugen, who had roughly the same size guns, roughly the same speed. She was also a beast. The Prince Eugen doesn't get enough credit, in my opinion, a naval ship. It basically sent out the hood. Had a very long day, so my mind's a little scattered. But there was obviously the hood. There was another battle cruiser with her whose name is unfortunately escaping me at this particular moment. And a destroyer. And that was it. That was kind of what they sent originally, to go take out the world's fastest battleship. And the British, to their credit, I guess you could call it, they kind of like to smell their own farts when it came to their navy. They were the greatest naval force on earth for hundreds of years. And in their minds, the Battle of Jutland from World War One just kind of reinforced their supremacy. My personal opinion is, in Jutland, they lost that. They should have creamed the Germans, and instead they didn't. And the Germans took out a few of their prides of their fleet, and the British were basically just like, it was a fluke. And no, it was not. It was absolutely not a fluke, and you guys should have seen that coming. So that was actually when they decided that they were going to do a lot of refits on HMS Hood and try to thicken some armor here and thicken some armor there. They didn't really, though, do as far as they should have. They thought that the war to end all wars was actually going to do all of that, and they didn't really make the Hood as sturdy as she probably should have been. One of the things they wanted to do is they wanted to reinforce her deck armor because of what's called a plunging shot. So when you're fighting a naval battle, you're not fighting like I fought. I was a machine gunner. I could be anywhere from, I don't know, a couple hundred yards to a couple feet away from the enemy. In a naval battle, in real naval battles, not like World of Warships or anything like that, you are miles from your target. 18,000 yards was the distance from the Bismarck to the Hood. Now, the prevailing theory is that what was called, obviously, when you're firing at a target that far away, your barrels are not pointed directly at your target. Your barrels are like this. They're elevated. They're going to fly in an arc pattern. And if your rangefinder and your gunner is good, that bullet or that shell, that 2,000-pound shell, is going to fall, hopefully, right where the enemy ship is. So the prevailing theory is that a plunging shell penetrated through the deck near the aft of the Hood and went into an aft magazine. And this goes back again to the Battle of Jutland and a lesson that the British did not learn. Inside of these massive ships, obviously, you have dozens and dozens and dozens of rooms, and they're all compartmentalized. They're all in bulkheads. Now, when you get below the turret, where the turret sits on what's called a barbette, and then inside the barbette, which goes down usually almost all the way down to the bowels of the ship, that leads to your magazines. Your magazines have an elevator that'll bring the shells and the cordite or the powder or whatever that particular ship is using. It'll bring it up and it'll load. Those magazines are some of the most reinforced sections on the ship for extremely obvious reasons. If you've ever handled any type of explosive, you know that the cabinets and the rooms that those things are locked in are better than bank vaults. Like they are heavy duty, hardcore. And the British, in their infinite wisdom, uh, oh, I skipped the part. That those things have very thick bulkheads, and they have very thick blast doors, very, very thick. If I remember correctly, I have the book right next to me, but I'm not opening it right now as I'm painting. If I remember correctly, the blast doors on the hood leading into her magazine were something in the neighborhood of like 4 inches thick, 5 inches thick, or something like that. And in times of battle, those doors were supposed to be shut. And the British, for whatever reason, did not like shutting those doors. They said it helped ease the movement of powder and shells to where they needed to be. Now, y'all can see where this is going. If you do not have um, those blast doors shut and something happens, fire is going to spread extremely quickly, especially when we're talking about propellants that burn faster than det cord. Um, these are, and it's a lot. It's a lot of powder required to make these things fire as far as they do. We're talking tons and tons and tons. And the British, in again their infinite wisdom, they did not store their powder in as the Germans did. Stored their brass bullets almost like you see on a regular rifle today. They were stored in metal canisters. The British stored their powder and cordite basically in canvas fucking bags, um, which anybody can see that this is just. That's right, that dude. They did it to increase their rate of fire to compensate for reduced gunnery training. Which, yeah, in theory, that's great. In practice, what the fuck is wrong with you? um, I don't know. Maybe train your gunners better, train your crews better, make them more efficient. Instead, what you did is you opened yourself up to an absolute disaster just waiting to happen. And the morning of May 24th, the very early morning, all of this came together, and exactly what you would have expected to happen happened. It turned into, well, there's a lot of prevailing theories. Some people believe it was, like I said, a plunging shot that came either from Prinz Eugen or Bismarck. And obviously, this is the Bismarck, so not everything is going to be correct. There's actually a second funnel on hood. But the one of the theories is there was a plunging shot that came down like this, basically about here, if this was the hood, behind the aft funnel, came all the way down. The prevailing theory is that it hit either a 5-inch magazine or the torpedo room and started a fire. And because those blast doors were not closed, well, guess what? That fire spread very, very quickly, because we're talking about propellant here. We're talking about things that are designed to go off very quickly. And the end result was from here to about here on the HMS hood, disappeared. It vaporized. It was completely gone. If you go down and read, or if you go and look at some of the wreck footage, they rediscovered the hood in 2001. There's nothing of this section of ship left. Nothing. There are scraps of metal. There are pieces of, small pieces of guns, small pieces of debris. But as far as a hull or a superstructure or even the turret or the barbette or the funnel, it's gone. There's just literally nothing left. And that's crazy. There's only like four ships that I can think of off the top of my head that suffered an explosion so catastrophic that there's literally like nothing left of it. The worst of them is the SS Mont Blanc, which was a steamer transport ship that was transporting ammunition in World War One, and they were in Halifax Harbor, and a fire happened. And when that fire happened, they were transporting something like 60. No, that can't be right. I want to say it was like 20,000 tons or something like that of ammunition, strictly ammunition. Caught fire, and it blew up. And that explosion was actually the single largest explosion until the Trinity test. Um, the the blast for that could be seen 30 miles away. Windows were shattered up to 20 miles away. Um, all that. Oh, wait, there we go. There we go. 2,300 tons of picric acid, 500 tons of TNT, and 10 tons of gun cotton. Gun cotton is the scariest goddamn substance on earth. Um, that stuff is high energy, high release, and it's insane. But all that remains of the SS Mont Blanc is like a 12-foot by 7-foot section of metal that is embedded in the harbor floor. There's nothing left. Literally nothing has remained of that ship. And there was only maybe it was 20. It wasn't a lot, but there was a few survivors. And the only reason they survived is because they were going ashore to like go visit the dentist or something like that. Which, you know, go get your teeth checked because it might save your damn life. There was also a couple of guys that were being transported from the brig on board the Mont Blanc to an onshore prison, and they were actually pardoned because, well, when your entire ship goes up and all of your friends die, you tend to feel a little bit of sympathy. I probably should have done this with tweezers. But yeah, so the British just didn't learn from their mistakes at Jutland because that was actually their. Where'd you going in there? Their losses at Jutland were for almost the same reasons. They didn't they didn't close their damn blast doors like morons, and a lot of sailors died, and they didn't learn their lesson. And then 20 years later, well, 20 years later, another 1,415 British sailors needlessly lost their lives because of poor training, fire control, and just bad habits. Yeah, no, gun cotton is scarier than nitro. A lot. And you're right, David. No one ever learns the lessons in war until it's too late. I mean, look at Russia right now. They still think that human wave tactics are the way to go. And yeah, you may gain some ground, but sooner or later, the people are going to know that you know, why is a whole town missing? Why is a whole town dead? Human wave tactics are stupid. Always have been, always will be. Yeah, Ukraine kind of makes Russia their bitch on a daily basis, and it's pretty funny. Oh, all right. Are these adequately dry? Yeah, we'll give them a few more minutes. All right. So next, we're gonna attempt to do some shit with this mast. That's going to make me angry. All right. That's 76. I love an empty sprig. Oh my god, that's so beautiful. I am so happy to be almost done with this shit. 1/700 is just not my bag. Not my bag at all. B138. There you are, you little bastard. I've played World of Warships on Xbox, which is extremely limited in terms to the PC release. I'd like to play it on PC, but I just don't really have the the hard drive space right now for it. So lately, I've gotten back into Baldur's Gate 3 because, well, I'm a fucking nerd. Never played Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, EverQuest, World of Warcraft, none of them. I'm usually an RPG whore. Fallout's my jam. Something about a post-apocalyptic wasteland where I can go be an asshole, because I'm not an asshole in real life. What the fuck am I supposed to cut? Yeah. When I first started this model, I took a lot of care to try to sand down all of the lines left from cutting, hide things as best as possible, but I got shaky damn hands, and this is a very, very small scale, which is once again why I'm going to shout out Andy Ward, because my god, Andy, you bought me the ship of my dreams, and it gets here on Monday, and I'll be doing an unboxing video for it. What'd you say, Godzilla? Godzilla and Tanks, my favorite class in Baldur's Gate 3. Currently, I'm running a Paladin Warlock mix because, well, I'm a basic bitch like that. I had a lot of fun playing as a druid, but I don't know. There's just something about swinging that giant ass flaming sword you get from the first demon you fight on the oh my god, on Cthulhu or ship or whatever you want to call it, the Eldritch Horror. I appreciate that compliment, David. I know a lot of friends growing up. My friends were Encyclopedia Britannica. And I read so much as a kid. It was actually my dearly departed Aunt Sue who instilled a never-ending love of history. I remember Mind Flayers. Thank you. I could not remember what the hell they were actually called. God bless you, Godzilla. But I remember being 4 years old, and she took me to this local deli to get me ice cream. And I don't even know how the conversation started, but she started telling me about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and a wild thing to a 4-year-old about or 5-year-old about. But she started explaining to me the missile crisis, and to her credit, she explained to me, as a 5-year-old could understand it. And I remember she got to the part about how we blockaded Cuba to stop the Russian ships from delivering more missiles. And I was absolutely enthralled with that. I couldn't understand how in a giant ass ocean you could stop boats from coming in. I was 5. The only thing I knew about war when I was 5 was Top Gun, because I could recite that movie. Running gag in my family was I could watch it in Spanish, and I knew what they were saying because I watched Top Gun so many goddamn times. But I was totally enthralled with this idea. And I went home and went to my trusty old friend, Encyclopedia Britannica, and I looked up the Cuban Missile Crisis. And they were talking in the article about how there were... these things. They're drying up. We're going to glue these bitches on. Yeah, they're dry enough. Yep, cool. And they were talking about some of the warships that were involved, and the destroyers, and there was a battleship, but I don't think it was New Jersey. I want to say it was maybe Missouri or something like that. And I had never heard of a battleship before. And I remember reading about their Mark IV 16-inch guns. And I thought the gun was 16 inches long. And when I realized that, no, the barrel is, 16 inches wide, it was like one of the craziest moments of my life. And it was at that point I decided I wanted to join the Navy. I wanted to see what a 16-inch fucking gun could do in real life. You can't imagine how hard I cried when I learned that the U.S. Navy, by that point, no longer had any active battleships. I literally cried. I was so upset. Just so upset. So what did I do? I joined the Marines instead and became a machine gunner. Now, if you're not going to let me play with a 16-inch gun, you may as well let me play with something that's going to fire fucking 1,100 rounds a minute if I just hold down the trigger. Still would have been a Navy man, but oh well. I wonder if my hands would still shake if I was on a battleship. For those of you that don't know, there's also the Discord server, and my good friend Dad 2.0 just told me he found a 1/1000 model for me, and dude, I would rather be dead. I will never, and for the rest of my life, I don't care if I get to a point where I can literally do these in my sleep, I'll never work on smaller than 1/350 if I can help it ever again. Just never. This is fulfilling, and I enjoy it. I love doing it, but I also, it makes me angry. It makes me so angry. I've broken a few parts on this that I literally just had to be like, oh, well, guess that part's done. Because I don't appreciate the scale. It's not a patience issue. my hands don't work. Which is incredible, especially considering I used to build custom furniture in a way that was beautiful. I used to build some very, very, very amazing pieces of furniture. I built for the famous, I built for the rich, like the really rich. Like, I made stuff for, I mean, he's a piece of shit, but it was his father. I made day beds for the King of Saudi Arabia's yacht. Musicians that you definitely heard on the radio today. It was a lifelong dream doing that stuff. Hope y'all don't see my face too much there, but that was actually, that's me. And that was my best friend, and he was the one that I used to build everything with. What he forgot about woodworking, I'll never know. He was the greatest teacher in the world, and I miss him more and more every goddamn day. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. Yeah. I kind of do look like a killer a little bit. I did some fun stuff. I keep a lot of my military history to myself because, that's my story. That's my life. I try to stay anonymous. But, everybody's got a thing. Alright, now let's figure out which boat's supposed to go where, because this is going to be the part that pisses me off the most, probably. It appears I am missing a set of lifeboats. But honestly, at this point in the model, if I'm missing 2 lifeboats, what's it really going to matter? Because they are tiny. No, wait, there's... Yeah, whatever. Again, I'm not going for museum quality. I go for things that make me happy, and things that I enjoy. Striking. Anyway, these bitches goes where? It's 30 feet, which is this boat. And this boat is gonna go right there. I believe it's probably dry by this time. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of World War II. It was a blessing and a curse, especially because I'm active on Twitter. The advantage of who my grandfather was, granted he taught me a, let's say, distorted view of World War II history, but he also instilled in me a love of history, mostly because I wanted to know the true side of history and the part that he was fucking telling me. But, I mean, from the Pacific theater to the European theater, there's not a whole lot I haven't spent an obscene amount of time studying. It can be a blessing. It very much can be a blessing, except for when you argue with chuds on Twitter who try to tell you that Hitler's a bad guy. No, fuck you, Hitler was a bad guy. That's not even up for debate. Go to hell. Or they'll try to be like, oh, Poland attacked, and no, Poland did not attack. The Germans said, Uh, the Germans sent soldiers across the border wearing Polish uniforms to make it look like that Poland had attacked German-speaking settlements on the other side of the border. Like, it actually was a false flag, not like the 9/11 conspiracists think, 9/11 was or anything like that. Like, no, that actually was a false flag operation. And Hitler used that as his pretext to invade, to try to retake Dansk, as it's called today, because, Germans lost the war, stupid fucks. Ooh, gonna be a little bit, there we go. But he actually sent Germans over there to set bombs off and use that as his prelude to war. And fortunately, for once in their lives, the British weren't stupid and were like, nah, we know you're full of shit. And then they offered no help to the Poles, which, kind of a British thing to do. Ugh. I pick on the British a lot, but that's because I'm Irish as well. So, fuck them. I don't give a shit about the Brits' feelings. Never have, never will. That's not true. I have some British friends, and actually, the guy who taught me how to build was British. Although he would prefer that I called him. I don't remember what it was, but he was from the Black Country in England, and he was very, very proud to be from that area. Yeah, Godzilla, whoever said that about FDR was a fucking moron. FDR loved the Navy, and FDR loved battleships. Now, is there an argument to be made that perhaps the American intelligence was more aware of something coming? Yeah, there is absolutely that argument to be made. Yeah, I put a boat in the wrong spot. Fuck. Oh well, we can just put it in a different spot. Because again, I don't go for museum quality. I'm doing this because I enjoy it. But FDR was very, very proud of the U.S. Navy. And he actually was a very large proponent for building more battleships. Um, Mostly because, unlike most people at the time, he did see what was going on with Japan. And he was aware that you were not going to fight a war in the Pacific against the Japanese unless you had a very, very well prepared Navy. And that's actually why all of those battleships were in Pearl Harbor and not in San Diego. They were there to be a deterrent. The idea of air warfare was still, God damn you, was still kind of foreign. Um, we had, the world had kind of seen what was, oh shit, that gun's loose. The world had kind of seen what air power was capable of when the Condor Legion, the German Condor Legions, went to Spain. But the idea of naval air power was still kind of a foreign concept. It wasn't really totally considered how powerful a single ship could be against, or how powerful a single plane could be against a warship like this. Like, I mean, come on, look at the guns on this thing. Even without all of its anti-aircraft, this is nothing but a gun platform. This is a great artillery platform. Um, and they were thought to be impenetrable, except to other naval artillery platforms. It was a very foreign concept that something as small or as dumb as a biplane could cause mass damage to these things. And they got proved very quickly that no, it doesn't take much to sink one of these things, which is also why naval tactics changed in the long run. A lot of times, like I was explaining before with the British during the Denmark Strait, there wasn't a lot of escorts with HMS Hood. They didn't think it was necessary because, sort of, it wasn't. You weren't fighting these tiny little things that were thousands of feet above you and, you know, shooting down at you. You were shooting at something that was 40,000 ton displacement, 50,000 ton displacement, moving at you at 30 knots. The idea of something coming at you at 160 miles an hour from 20,000 feet in the air and a straight dive to drop a bomb directly into your deck, not a lot of people saw that coming. Um, so FDR, when it came to moving the fleet from, I believe, their home harbor, San Diego, moving them out to Pearl Harbor, it was meant to just be like a deterrent. But they didn't know that no, it's not a deterrent; it's a target. Um, and that's why now, when you see carrier battle groups, it's not an aircraft carrier by itself in the middle of fucking nowhere. Um, you've got destroyers and frigates, and missile cruisers, and like all, a carrier goes out with probably 12 ships at a minimum, and you want a full, you know, carrier division out there. Fucking 30 ships out there. We don't send them out by themselves for a reason. And those were lessons that were actually learned in the Pacific during World War II. Um, Single ships are very, very easy and lucrative targets. It doesn't take much. Look at the USS Indianapolis. Now, of course, the Indianapolis is a special case where it was on a very secret mission. Um, they had to deliver a bomb. So one ship was a lot easier to slip through than, say, 12. But, you know, a sub, a fucking Marine fired 5 torpedoes. The number of torpedoes that actually impacted is debated. They only rediscovered the Indianapolis, I believe, in 2000 and oh god, I want to say 2014. I'm pretty sure somebody will wiki that for me real quick and correct me, but it wasn't that long ago they rediscovered Indianapolis. Um, but it didn't take much. It really, and that was another ship that she went down very, very quickly. And out of a crew of 1,100, something only 400 or 500 people made it into the water because she went down in about 10 minutes. And these boats, these ships, like in the case of the Hood sank in 3 minutes. Try to imagine this thing has a height on the deck of, I want to say it's about 60 feet, maybe. Um, Sorry, but I took an edible and had a drink, so it's kicking in right now. But these are full of corridors. It's not a straight shot to get up here. And imagine trying to get from, like, say here, where your only point of exit is here, and you have to go through winding hallways, no power. It's wrecked. There was an explosion, so maybe some doors don't open, and you're doing this in pitch black. Like, try to just go from upstairs in your house to downstairs in your house blindfolded and try to do it in 30 seconds. Now imagine you're in the bowels of a 60,000 ton displacement ship trying to do that. That's damn near fucking impossible. And unfortunately, you're not going far. Yeah, and I mean that's the story of the Hood. The Hood, from the time she exploded to the time she went under the water was 3 minutes. 3 goddamn minutes. That's obscene. That's not enough time to really do anything. And the explosion on the Hood was so violent and so quick that a lot of guys were knocked unconscious, and they were completely incapable of getting there. And if you were on deck, there's a very good chance that you knocked unconscious when that explosion went off. The shockwave, that, and absolutely obscene. Just, I can't even imagine. I've been close to some very large explosions in my day. I can't imagine 40 tons of munitions going off at once. I can't fathom that. And then trying to keep my wits about me and get out of there. And that's something that's usually very lost when people talk about these kinds of things. The human cost is really, really insane. Um, Only 3 people got pulled from the water of the Hood. And the explosion was so quick and the sinking was so quick and so violent that I don't remember the exact number, but it was like less than 20 bodies were pulled from the water. Out of 1,400 men, less than 20 bodies were pulled from the water because they just didn't get out of the ship. And the ones that not topside in the back will literally blow you off the deck. But a lot of them were knocked unconscious, or like I said, from here to here was vaporized. So anybody that was here was just instantly gone. And there was just no hope. There was no hope of getting out of there. Which, there's no other way to fucking put it. It's a bummer. Like, it's a very, very, very big bummer. There's a lot of men that are still inside the Hood. And me personally, I'm almost glad that they stayed with the ship. That was, truly just a no-win scenario. And the story of ordinary seaman Ted Briggs, he was the last survivor of the Hood, one of the 3. He was the last one to live. He passed away in 2008. And when he was, there's a great documentary. I got to try to find it because a couple of people have asked me which one it was. I got to find it online or remember which one because, again, I'm a dork who just watches a lot of documentaries. My wife gets mad at me over it because that's like all I watch. Um, but there was a great documentary from when they rediscovered the hood, and there was a film crew with him, and they told this poor old man, shit, that was dry. Um, we found your ship, and all he could say was, "My lads won't be forgotten." I mean, to begin with, but in the documentary, he says, "My lads won't be forgotten," and then he just walks over to his window. He had a seaside house, and he just stared out the window, looking out into the ocean. I don't know if it's true, but if I remember correctly, his ashes were actually spread over where the hood was found because he wanted to be with his boys. And that's something else that's always attracted me to the life of the ocean and the life of the sea is, unless you were in the Imperial Japanese Navy, there was always a respect factor for fellow sailors. There's even stories of sailors from the Bismarck, when they saw the hood go up, they were horrified, absolutely horrified. These were enemies, die hard enemies, horrified at what they saw happen to the hood because they knew that there were not going to be a lot of people that came back from who families again, and their families were never going to see them again. War on the oceans is different than war on land. There's the sailor's code, and a lot of sailors took that very, very seriously. Again, I'd have to try to figure out which documentary I was actually watching, but um, one of the survivors of Bismarck, after she had sank, said that documentary was the first time he had ever spoken. God damn it! He had ever spoken about what he saw, and until he died, he would have nightmares about those men escape. Which again is a completely different mindset from the Imperial Japanese Navy, which, whoo boy, were they some war crimey bastards. Not as bad as the IJA, the Imperial Japanese Army. The Imperial Japanese Army might be one of the most war crimey organizations outside of Nazi Germany in history. Um, look up the rape of Nanking if you don't feel like sleeping for the next couple of weeks. But there was a weird understanding between enemy combatants on the ocean. And in most cases, aid was almost always rendered. Survivors were almost always picked up. And of course, there's outlying stories of everybody, Americans, British, Germans, uh, not exactly playing nice water, let's say. But that wasn't really the norm. Sailors usually tended to understand that everybody deserves to go home to their families. Hey, that was more annoying than it should have been. There's another reason why I originally wanted to be a sailor. The rules of the ocean, the rules of the sea were something that always intrigued me. I liked the idea of the honor behind being a sailor. It wasn't until I was on a Mew that I realized I was deathly afraid of open water. Like, deathly afraid of open water. I was fine as long as I could see land, but the second I couldn't see land anymore, I didn't want to go topside anymore. Not my thing. So maybe in retrospect, it's it's a good thing that we don't have battleships anymore. Yeah. Oh my God, what was the name of that movie where the carrier goes back in time to Pearl Harbor? Oh, that was a good movie. What the hell was that called? Um, yeah, but that was a good movie. That was really, really good. I feel like Glenn Scott was in that movie. Could be wrong, but that was another one of those movies when I watched a bunch when I was a kid. Top Gun was always my favorite, though. I love Tom Cruise. I know he's fucking nuts, but Tom Cruise is a great actor who doesn't get enough credit for being a great actor because of the fact he's so fucking nuts. There we go. And that mask should stay where it's supposed to. Yeah, Final Countdown. That's what it was called. Final Countdown. Great movie. Great movie. Just look over at. I got like Twitter open and YouTube's open, Discord's open. The whole thing about the movie The Final Countdown was it was a thought experiment about like, should you try to alter history and um there's things to be said one way or the other, whether or not it was a good idea. They should have fought, they shouldn't have fought, they did this, they shouldn't have done that. Um Personally, I think it would have been awesome to watch a bunch of fucking phantoms just go light up some zero bitches. uh Jesus Christ. Another good movie is what I think is personally the best Pearl Harbor movie, Tora Tora Tora. That was a great movie, and uh, Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor is a great movie for 30 minutes. If you take that, if you take just the attack scene in that movie, I think it's probably one of the best war movies ever made. Everything else in that movie fucking sucked, but that shit was cool. Sorry, I'm smoking like a chimney, but I had a scotch, so it's only necessary. So, what I have left on this is I've got the mast, the forward flagpole, the rear flagpole, and I think that's it. I could try to do the triple chain here and do the triple chain back here, but I think I'm done with tiny shit. I hope you all forgive me for that. But I'm honestly just very, very ready for this boat to be done and over with. It's taken a lot out of me. It's tried patience I didn't even know I had. Where the fuck am I supposed to put this? Yeah, David, they are very, very tedious. It's I'm, I'm ready for him to be done. I'm ready for this to. I'm ready to move on to my next project. Thanks again to Mr. Andy J. Ward, my absolute hero. Oh, son of a bitch! I'm supposed to put you back there? That doesn't make sense. All right. Well, let's figure this out. Apparently, you go here. Yeah, that's where you're gonna go. All right. Keep taking too long, and my glue keeps drying. Man, if I could do a 1-to-1 scale USS New Jersey, oh god, I would happily do that. Just absolutely happily build a full-size battleship in my backyard. The only thing I love more than battleships is my wife and kids. You know, I've never actually seen the movie Battleship. Or Battleship. Yeah, Battleship. I've never actually seen it. And again, fuck you, Rebel, because you are just not very clear in your instructions here. Oh, I see where you're supposed to go, and this is about to piss me off. Okay. Alright. Now comes the tricky part. This will be the last thing I put together, and then we're going to declare the Bismarck done for tonight. I can't thank you all enough for joining me. There's nothing I like more than talking about history and hanging out with people and working on my model. This is like probably one of the closest things to therapy I get. I mean, I do therapy, don't get me wrong. I talk to the VA and I talk to a therapist because you don't end up with 2 enemy marksmanship badges and not have some shit to say about it. That's Purple Hearts for people who don't know, but I prefer to call them the enemy marksmanship badge because you know what? They're a good award, but I shouldn't have gotten one. But this is my therapy. I like talking about battleships. I like talking about history, and I love talking about especially World War II history because I just happen to have such a unique perspective on it that most people don't, you bitch, don't really get. Alright, that was too easy. That was way too easy. Yeah, weed's my therapy too. Unfortunately, I'm dry right now. Aliens look like Fred Durst. I think that's a pro. See, aliens look like Fred Durst and you get to shoot him. I think that's a pro. Fred Durst was cool from like 2000 to 2003, and then you kind of just discovered what a piece of shit he was. Although, with that being said, that man did not deserve the blame for the riots at Woodstock '99. That was a great example of prior planning prevents piss poor performance, and apparently the organizers of Woodstock '99 never heard that. So, all right. So, this, I believe, is the last piece. I'm not going to do the rigging on this ship as much as I'd like to. I just don't have it in me to try to use black thread. And try to do this because this fucking piece. Ooh, Dad spoke a lot of German, a lot of angry German, trying to get that fucking piece in. Probably should have drilled that hole out, but I don't have a drill. Well, I do, just not one small enough to really warrant it. Ooh, you gonna be a motherfucker, ain't you? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Deutsche Kriegsmarine Bismarck. This has been an absolute labor of love. And I'm really looking forward to never working on a 11700 or a 1700 model ship ever again. The last thing left to do is mount her to. Ooh, you bastard! No. All right. Last thing left to do will be to mount her to her base. And I present to you Schlachtschiff Bismarck. Guys, I honestly cannot thank you enough for joining me tonight. I hope you all have a pleasant Friday and weekend. It has been an absolute joy spending time with you all tonight. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the interaction. And we're going to do this again. We're going to definitely do this again sometime. I plan on doing an unboxing video on YouTube for when the New Jersey arrives. and I'm probably going to live stream a good portion of that build. I'm probably going to live stream and video, or at least record a lot more of that build, because it's literally double the size of this. So that'll be awesome. It'll make me happy. Um, but we're going to call it there. We've been doing this for about an hour and 20 minutes, and I appreciate those of you that stuck with me the whole time. And I hope you all have a wonderful Friday, an amazing weekend. Don't forget that Dad loves you, and Dad's proud of you, and don't touch my fucking thermostat.